Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, November the 14th, 2017. Good to have you all here for our first of two shows this week. As always, as we start the show, let me remind you all the ways which you can interact and contribute to the show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Hashtag itspotlight411 is the hashtag you want to use when you're tweeting anything at us or directly to us or discussing our show on Twitter. Please use that hashtag. Helps us out, promotes us, makes it easier for everybody. So just use that if you can. And of course, you can follow us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you come across it. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter so you can interact with us and do all that good stuff. All right. So one quick thing off the top here. I epic fail on my part. I want to note this because, usually I'm pretty good about noting holidays and all this other stuff. But I didn't do this on Thursday, and I feel really bad that I didn't. But I want to express a very a happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans and their families and friends. And, obviously Veterans Day was over the weekend and last Friday, and I wanted to I didn't say it on Thursday's show. I forgot all about it. So that's bad. That's an epic fail on my part. So I want to make sure that I note that. So happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans, and God bless you, and thank you for all that you do, and to their family, friends, loved ones as well. Hope you all had a good weekend and enjoyed, and, and again, we should pay tribute to the veterans all the time. But obviously this weekend was the weekend to celebrate that. But we should do that all the time. But again, this weekend being Veterans Day weekend, I want to make sure I note that off the top, and hope you all had a good weekend. And so happy Veterans Day to all of our vets. So I want to note that off the top. And also note right off the top here before we get into things, and because obviously at the top of the show I always get into scheduling and all that kind of stuff, what's going to be going on and all that. I mentioned last week that we might have to move the show this week. We are going to move the show, so we will not have a show on Thursday night. Our next show will be tomorrow night, so you're going to get us back-to-back nights this week. So a show tonight and a show tomorrow night, and that show tomorrow night will also be at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be an all wrestling show. We'll be previewing WWE's Survivor Series pay-per-view, which is coming up this Sunday. We'll go over all the matches, make predictions. Obviously, the card has changed numerous times. We'll talk about it all on. I'll talk about it all tomorrow. And then, of course, we have any time, we'll get into questions and comments from the fans. So if you have a question or comment related to wrestling that you want us to cover, please please send it in. You can, again, send it by email, Facebook, or Twitter. Whatever you want to do. You can send it before the show or during the show tomorrow night. So make sure that you note that. So tomorrow, our wrestling show, and that will be our second show of this week. And that will be our last show of this week. So there'll be no show on Thursday. And then next week, just a reminder to those that have been living under a rock and maybe have forgotten, next Tuesday will be our only show of next week. We will not have a show next Thursday. It's obviously Thanksgiving. Sometimes in the past, we try to squeeze in a show on Wednesday. We're not going to try that this time. So next week we'll only have one show, and it'll be on Tuesday, which is November the 21st. And we'll do all the usual stuff, entertainment, box office, BTV highlights, all the big sports stuff. We'll do all that, wrestling, all that on Tuesday show. So that will be a very, very full show. You want to make sure you tune in for that. And then the week after, we'll be back to normal and back to a normal schedule for at least a few weeks before the holidays get into full swing. So wanted to get into the schedule and let you all know what was going on here as we start the show tonight. Now, very often I come on the air, and, sometimes I come on late, sometimes I'm early. Last time I was early, but very often I come on the air, and, I'll explain to you, we had a technical problem. I ran late, personal reasons, blah, 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 blah. And by now, a lot of you know that, how are we ever on time? You all know that. Well, tonight, something interesting transpired. I was ready to get on the air, and obviously tonight it's a big sports night tonight. For college basketball fans, you got the Champions Classic. You also got the college football playoff rankings coming out at the half. So I was about to go on, and oftentimes there are some fans of ours that I talk with off the air. A lot of times on show nights, as I'm getting ready to go on the air, and I have conversations with people, and we chit chat and everything. And tonight was no exception. As I'm getting ready to go on the air tonight, there were people that was like, well, how are you going to start the show? And I'm not one that really gives away. I mean, but I am kind of predictable too. Like, people usually think I start with the NFL, and I mean, but they know tonight is a sports entertainment kind of combo thing, so they didn't know if I was going to start entertainment. And I said, well, I haven't decided yet. I kind of left it open depending on what I want to do. And they said, well, you might want to start with entertainment or something, because, are you really going to start talking about college basketball or the college football playoff rankings when, number one, the Duke-Michigan State game's not over yet, and that's obviously the biggest college basketball game of the week. And number two, the college football playoff rankings don't come out until halftime of the Champions Classic. So I said, wow, you're right. And then I got some people that were like, well, why don't you just wait to go on the air until a couple of those things are over with, because I'm not listening to you right now. I'm on the air watching the game. I'm not on the air. I'm watching the game. So I'm like, all right. So it was kind of funny to me how people were trying to coerce me into waiting to go on the air tonight, and I ended up doing that. So, but it was kind of funny how I was getting coerced. And look, you didn't have to push me too hard because Duke was playing, and I would like to watch the rest of the game. Even though I had a DVRing, I was going to watch it later. But, you didn't have to coerce me too hard to do that. But nonetheless, so, that was part of the reason why I was late. And the other reason I was late was because many of you might not know this once you broadcast on YouTube before. But when I was in the process of putting up, like, getting everything scheduled and getting the stream ready and all that kind of stuff, I actually... this is stupid. You're all gonna laugh at me. I had it all scheduled and opens the box up to have me start broadcasting. Well, for some stupid reason, I click off the tab with my platform, with my broadcast platform on it, and essentially end the broadcast stream before it starts. And then it wouldn't let me start a new one. So I had to go through that whole hiccup because I was a stupid idiot. Chris Jericho, appreciate that one. I was a stupid idiot that clicked off the tab with the broadcast icon on it. So yeah, that was fun. Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of note that off the top because people like to hear about my screw ups.
He does it a lot.
Yes, as Justin, who just came in the door, says, I do that a lot. So I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Anyway, live podcasting, you gotta love it. Anyway, so all right, so we do have a lot to get through tonight because we got the wrestling deal tomorrow. So we got some entertainment stuff. We got TV highlights. We got or TV picks of the week, whatever you guys want to call it this week, because you kind of changed the name of it inexplicably, even though I'm the one that comes up with the names. I think that's kind of funny. So we got that. We got box office. We got some NFL stuff to get to, and that won't take long. And then I don't put it in the show description. I got to start getting in the habit of putting it in there because, it's obviously important now as we head down the stretch. We'll do some college football playoff ranking stuff that just came out, and there's some pretty big surprises in that. And we'll talk some college basketball, talk about the Champions Classic as Duke and Michigan State just played a classic tonight. Really, really, really good game. And we still got the game that I think is going to be a even better game coming up with Kansas and Kentucky. So we got that coming up. So we'll talk some college basketball. We'll have some fun. It'll be good. So lots of stuff to get to tonight. Mike is on in the spotlight. Mike, how you doing?
So
what's up?
You're convinced to delay this show tonight.
I didn't think you'd have an issue with it.
No, Brian. I was ready at 9 o'clock. This is me laughing because I'm so confused. Ha, 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 ha. Ha ha! You irresponsible son of a bitch! Ha 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 ha! Ha ha! Ha!
Are you done?
Ha!
Okay, you had to get that last one out. All right, I didn't think you'd have an issue with it, but all right. Lately, but you know,
No. Clearly tonight, I have an issue with it because you know what? I'm like, no, Brian was on time the last couple of days, so I'll be ready.
we can't get this together, can we?
No, and you know whose fault this is? You. Ha ha ha.
It is. Well, actually, I take responsibility. It is my fault.
Ha.
It is. No, it is. It's my fault. I'll agree with you there. I'll agree. I'll agree with you. I know that doesn't make for a very fun debate, but you know. Anyway, so all right, so let's get the ball rolling here. Let's get going. We're gonna do some box office first. Let's do that because that doesn't require much. Let's jump into entertainment. Let's get to the box office, which was a fairly uneventful race this week because again no big surprises. Thor #1 again. That wasn't going to shock anybody. We knew the race was going to be for #2. That was never in doubt, and that exactly was what happened. The race was going to be for #2, and it was close, very close. But Daddy's Home 2 took #2 at 29.6 to Murder on the Orient Express at 28.6. Really, and this is very simple. You know, it's been very hard to kind of analyze box office results in the last maybe 2 years, other than the fact that these movies are starting to cannibalize each other and too many movies are coming out at once and all this kind of thing. Other than the broader themes of what goes on. But I think this is pretty self-explanatory. One of these movies appealed to a bigger audience, families. Of course, with Will Ferrell, sometimes you go skews a little younger. And the other one appealed to older audiences, and that was Murder on the Orient Express. And that really is probably what the difference. And again, it's a minuscule difference. There's only, 29.6 to 28.6. That's not a big difference in terms of box office. So ultimately, both movies ended up okay. You all heard me in the holiday movie preview saying that I thought Murder on the Orient Express was at risk of being a flop. Ultimately, it did not flop. It's made 58.8 overseas, 31 million in America, 89.8 million on a $55 million budget. So it's going to make at least a modest profit. Which will that be enough to continue doing some more of these kind of films? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what their benchmark is. But it's look. Given the competition, given the time of year, given that it was going to always play more to that older audience, this is not bad. That's a good showing. It was never going to be #1. It's a good showing. And same thing with Daddy's Home too. You know, $69 million budget, putting on almost $30 million. It hasn't opened enough overseas markets to make a big dent yet. So it's off to an okay start. And with Thanksgiving, and if it hangs out around Christmas, you know, it'll pull in some good numbers. So it's all good. And obviously, Thor is doing extremely well, $57 million first, and with its total worldwide gross right now at $655.7 million. So again, what's going to be really interesting about this is I already made $440 million overseas. I said it's going to make the Thor movies always do better overseas. We all know that, but very interesting here is the fact that it's closing in on $700 million, which I thought would be what it would make in the lifetime of its run. So I don't want to go crazy and think it could hit $1 billion, given the fact that at the back half of the month here, you got Justice League, you got Coco, and then because on the back, and then if you get really far into the back end of its run, you got Star Wars, which is going to completely crash its theater counts. So I don't think it will have enough juice to get to $1 billion, but it's going to pretty much outperform everybody's estimation at what it was going to do in the long run here. So 655.7 million is terrific as it goes into its third week. Really, really good. Outside of the top three, which collectively did extremely well, A Bad Moms Christmas in fourth, 11.4 million. Everything else was under 5 million, which we thought would be the case because, you know, a lot of those movies have been hanging around for how long, and they're Halloween type movies. So, you know, some of them are. So, really not shocking that nothing else made a dent in anything. So, so collectively, again, as the box office tries to build itself up here, you got 4 over 10 million, which is good. And you know, this weekend you have a few more in the way of releases, and one major release that will clear 100 million. I don't care if every reviewer hates the movie, and so far the reviews are good. You know, this movie's gonna. I mean, you got a big movie in Justice League that's gonna clear 100 million. You got 2 movies that, you know, I don't know. I don't think they'll do huge business, but they'll factor into things. And with Thor doing what it's done, and Daddy's Home 2 and Murder on the Orient Express, I think that makes for at least a box office which will have at least 5 or 6 movies over that $5 million benchmark. So that's you know, it's getting there. It's getting there. So not much else I can say about last week. In terms of this week, as I said, Justice League is the big story. It'll be opening in 4,040 theaters, obviously from Warner Brothers and DC. Zack Snyder's got the credit. We all know there's more than Zack Snyder that should get the credit on this movie, probably, as Joss Whedon did a lot of stuff on this movie. He'll get a credit, but, you know, it's obviously a shared endeavor in many ways, at least from what you hear. Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, Amy Adams, J.K. Simmons, and a host of others star in this movie. I'm not going to read the whole cast list because it'd take us 2 hours. But, you know the cast by now. PG-13. It will clear 100 million. How much it clears 100 million is a question. See film to predict, because you know Wonder Woman's going to help it. Otherwise, you would think it's gonna fall flat on its face, and not to the point where it'd be a flop, but it wouldn't do as well as the previous DC movies have done, despite their critical ratings. It's got good word of mouth, which is going to help it. That's other than Wonder Woman's first time we could actually say that. It's got good word of mouth. It has Wonder Woman as a boost to it. It's obviously been well marketed, and as Thor has taught us earlier this month, you know, no matter what, superheroes are the thing, and they're the most guaranteed thing at the box office right now, and probably Star Wars is superheroes anyway, but they're the most guaranteed thing at the box office right now. So, you know, it's going to make 100 million. I don't know if I can see it clearing 150. That to me is very, very, very dicey to predict. And here's the other thing too, and it's hard. It's, you know, people are going to say, well, that's kind of screwy, but there are going to be a lot of people, all right, other than the diehards, and we'll talk about casuals here. We're not talking about diehards, but there are going to be a lot of casual movie fans that will be interested and will probably wait to see this movie till Thanksgiving weekend. That's what happened. That's the danger, and I think that happened with Hunger Games a couple times, and Harry Potter too as well. You run into this problem when you come out the week before Thanksgiving, because here's the thing: some people may have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, and they got the weekend, and they're not going to shop that and obviously got family things and stuff, but they're not going to shop that entire weekend after the holiday. So you know, movie theaters pick up. That's why it's a big movie theater week. So there are going to be people, as far as casual moviegoers, that say, you know what, I can wait to see this till next week, because the only big movie next week is Coco, which is going to be seen by families and kids. But outside of that, you know, who else is going to see it? I mean, yeah, there'll be some adults that go with the kids and that, but let's be honest here. You know, you're going to have people going to see Justice League for the first time in the midst of that week. So because of the holiday, because of the fact people are off, because of all that, that could hurt Justice League's opening weekend, because people might say, I'm just going to wait. Unless you're a totally obsessed DC comic fan or something, then you're going to go and see it the right away. But yeah, so the question is, how far will it clear 100 million? That's going to be the only question mark, and it will be number 1. We all know that. And Thor is going to be number 2 by default, because none of these other movies have enough juice to get to that point. The second biggest release of the weekend is Wonder, a drama from Lionsgate, opening over 3,000 theaters. Julia Roberts, Owen Wilson, Jacob Tremblay star in this film. PG. Has a pretty high theater count, but I wouldn't expect much from it. I'd be really shocked if it cleared 10 million, despite even if it's theater count. Be really, really shocked. Maybe 12 million. I would be shocked if it did more than that. The other movie this weekend, The Star, an animated film from Sony Columbia, opening in over 2,800 theaters, starring the voice talents of Anthony Anderson, Kristen Chenoweth, Gabriel Iglesias, and Keegan Michael Key. And again, this movie, $20 million budget, very small theater count. If it clears 7-8 million, I'd be shocked. So this weekend, I think it's pretty easy to call. Justice League will be number one. I'm going to go with 130 million. It could exceed that. By how much, who knows? It's a hard movie to call because you don't know how many people are going to wait to see it. You don't know if, even despite Wonder Woman giving it a boost and even despite the good reviews, if it's going to be enough to overcome some of the negative sentiment. But I'm going to go for 130 million, 130, 140 million. Thor, I think, will be second. I'll go with around 20, 25 million. Third, Daddy's Home 2 with about 17 million. Murder on the Orient Express, I think, will drop to around 13, 14, maybe a little lower than that. Wonder, I'll go with around 10, 11. And then Star, I think, will fall. I actually think Bad Moms Christmas will be Star. I think it'll be around 8 million or so. And then Star, maybe, I should say, does Star around 6, 7 million. And that will be it. That will be your movies. So I think you're looking at 1, 2, 3. The Star might do even worse than that. So I mean, I think you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies. 6 movies guaranteed to be over 5 million, maybe 7 this weekend, which will make for a pretty decent box office. So that's the way I see this weekend going. Mike, any thoughts on box office last week or this week?
Thor won. Next week, Justice League will do good.
And like I said before, next week you have only one major new release, and that's Coco. It opens on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. So you figure Justice League will have another solid. And here's the other thing too, and I mentioned this in the holiday movie show. Holiday movie preview, I should say. After Coco next Wednesday, the week after, there's no major releases on December 1st. And then on Friday, December 8th, there's only one major release, and it's an action comedy called Just Getting Started, which is not expected to do huge business. So after Coco next week, the next big release is Star Wars on December 15th, which will also have that week will also have Ferdinand, an animated film from Fox as well. So you don't really get into any other big films until December 15th. So anything that's come out in November will have a few weeks to kind of rack up the business a little bit. So it's going to be a very hard thing for the box office to kind of, by the time it gets to December 15th, it's going to need Star Wars to kind of pick it back up again. So, but that's the way the schedule is this year. People wanting to stay away from Star Wars. So, again, Coco next week, we'll talk about that next week and kind of lay the groundwork for Thanksgiving weekend, how everything will fall and what kind of weekend we'll be looking at. And we'll see what Justice League does. That'll be the big headline this weekend. See if DC can continue their momentum. So, and let me correct myself here. There is a movie of significance opening on December 1st, and that's Disaster Artist. So I should have noted that. And that's obviously going to have a lot of buzz. So, but again, will it do Star Wars or Justice League like business or something? No, but it's significant. So we'll talk about what happens this weekend and look ahead to Thanksgiving weekend next week when we have when we talk box office next week. All right, so that's the box office beat. Now we jump to the TV picks of the week. Mike, what are you? Because I started it last week. You got any TV highlights from this past week?
Oh, good. You're throwing it to me now, huh? Do you feel bad? Because you fucking should.
Oh, God. That's aggressive.
You fucking should.
Wow. That's
and we're doing this early. So, right? It's Tuesday. Yeah, I haven't seen. That makes it kind of hard. Caught up on it. Yeah, I know. I haven't caught up on everything. Excuse me. So this is what you're getting this week. I have And this was the first week that Bull lost a case. Very emotional episode, and it all turned out well. It all turned out well in the end. This was the monumental week. Bull finally lost a case. And it was a good episode. And yeah, everything kind of worked out for Bull and his team in the end, but Bull lost it. It's crazy. I mean, now I'm not caught up, but I was caught up. All right, so Bull, good episode this week. Let's see. I saw the last 2 episodes of Stan Against Evil, starring John C. McGinley. It's on IFC. A pony who would morph into a cowboy who was trying to kill the sheriff with the current sheriff and Stan that situation. It was a solid half-hour worth of. I was entertained. Worth of good stuff. I mean, episode featured con artist / magician who was trying to kill Stan and Sheriff Evie. He tried to Evie to kill a bunch of people. Stan had to figure out a way around it. He did, and it was great. Look, John C. McGinley is excellent in this show, and the writing on the show is really good. It's corny. It's entertaining. The scripts are strong. Evil's really good. So I recommend Stand Against Evil. Have I watched Inhumans yet? Have I spoiled myself in Inhumans? Yes. Is it inherently disappointing? Moving on. I'll do a report on Inhumans later. But it was, in fact, inherently disappointing. No, not Legends. Orville. I'm 1 episode further than I was. Still like an episode or 2 behind. But it was an intense episode where the doctor and Isaac and the doctor's kids were stranded on a planet. Probably the most intense and most Star Trek-like episode there. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic writing, fantastic acting. It focused on the doctor. And they both grew as characters, I think. It was a very good, very intense episode. So, bless you. So, at least I recommend it. And I know the next Orville coming up was a lighter, more fluffy episode. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that Orville. So, I do recommend the Orville. I haven't talked about it in a few weeks. But there it is. Have I seen Daily Show with Trevor Noah? That was interesting. That was fine. Episode he interviewed a guy who did a documentary about how Apu is not a good Indian for white Americans. He's not a good caricature of Indian Americans, and it's true. Apu is not a good caricature of Indian Americans. A character comedy cartoon. So there you go. Other than that, I can honestly say last week South Park was good, but we talked about that on Thursday.
Yeah, that's the problem with doing a quick turnaround. Just very little, unless there's something on the weekend that you happen to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't been able to sit down and really watch stuff on the weekend.
Yeah, it's hard. I agree. I understand.
So honestly, I can honestly say that this is not the only thing I watch on the weekends. Is streams online an anime called Blood Blockade Battlefront. It's on Crunchyroll and Funimation now. I watch it subbed on Crunchyroll. It's simulcast, which means it airs in Japan first, then it airs in America a few hours later. It's by the guy who did the anime Trigun, which is a brilliant classic show. And this is the sequel. This is the second series of this show. The first one aired in 2015. The second one is airing now. We're on episode, and I'm always an episode back because I don't pay for Crunchyroll. I watch stuff free on Crunchyroll, and by stuff I mean literally this one show, this actual just one show. So I can honestly say, and it's a great series. It's a great series. It's entertaining. All the characters are likable. All the characters are fantastic, and the action is great. Not everybody's into anime, but this is the one show I've been really into. It's a fantastic show. I think the last episode I just watched was about the butler who receives very little screen time, the son, and it was amazing as hell. It's everything. This author who's responsible for Trigun, who's responsible for Gungrave. He's got another hit on his hands. So I guess I recommend that. I mean, the thing, I'd recommend the entire show.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I just got a lot of notifications. So in lack of anything else, that's what I recommend because I haven't seen everything. So there you go, Brian. Good luck. Talk about Walking Dead.
Well, that's probably the only show I can talk about because really outside of that, I didn't. I'm trying to remember because I know that when we last talked on Thursday. I think the only other thing I could probably talk about is Gotham because I watched the new Gotham after we had the show, so it's probably just Gotham and Walking Dead. Gotham was really good, really really good. Very focused episodes, focused on some of the more supporting players, with Grundy and Lee and Ed and Barbara and Selena and Tabitha and. That bunch was really, really good, and I like what they're doing with Lee. I like the way they executed the episode. That was good. The stuff there was good. The stuff with Gordon and Bullock didn't really get a lot. That's fine because they've been getting a lot lately, but what they did get was really good. And boy, I'm telling you, there's a scene at the end the second from last act of the episode between Gordon and Bullock. That's probably one of the best acted. Or best done, most well done scenes the show has ever done. It was a really, really good very good scene. A lot of good acting, good writing in it. I can't really the turnaround. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's so. The show this year is so different than it's ever been. I mean, you could tell there's been a significant change at the top. It feels different. They're acknowledging the mistakes in the past. Every character has direction. Everything is so well balanced. It's not just the Jim Gordon show. Everybody's getting airtime. Everybody's being used. Characters that got nothing to do for 3 years, like Bullock, are finally getting used in comic book relevant stories. It's ridiculous how good the show has gotten. And they're using villains that make sense. They're using to enhance the stories. They're not just picking apart and using a villain just for the sake of using a villain. They all make sense. Using Professor Pig, the way they've used them was smart. I mean, yeah, they took certain liberties, but it worked. It was smart. It was not like, hey, we're going to bring Harvey Dent in and, do nothing with him. There's direction. So I got to give them credit. It's been a great turnaround. And to me, they're easily the most improved show of the TV season. Easily. It's ridiculous how different the show is and how much better it is. It's not even just, it's beyond watchable at this point. It's become a decent show. I'll give them credit. So I'll give Gotham a nod, and I'm going to be honest with you folks. Even though I think that this season's been better, and I think it's been better only because we're reaching an end game here. Walking Dead to me is in a major rut. Because at least one of the things I could take from last season was, even through all the misery, there felt like there was a hopeful undertone to it. Like, oh, you know what? You know, like you look at the mid-season finale halfway through season 7, and they ended it on you know, all of the group getting together, and it was so inspirational, that kind of thing. And the ending of the season with the beautiful speech with Maggie and the acknowledgement of Glenn, it was well done. For some reason this season, and I don't know if I don't know why it's going the way it is, and I've mentioned before the pretentiousness and the way that they execute certain things. They get a little too overly technical, and I don't know. This the way that they direct things and the way they put things together. It's just. But this week, I will give them this. Okay. Even though it added to the feel of this season, which I feel like they've lost a lot of the hopeful undertone that they were trying to bring, even though you're at war, there was a hopeful undertone, inspirational undertone to it. Even though I feel like in the first 3 episodes of this season that they've lost it, and this episode did not help by any stretch because it added to the misery. To me, this was the best episode they've done easily this season. And I know some people are like, oh, you know, they only focused on a few characters and all that. Still, it was a needed episode. If you're going to do a bottle episode that only focuses on certain characters, this is the way you do it. Because King Ezekiel was a character that needed development. They had not used him enough. They've done barely anything with him except for maybe one good episode. It was his first episode, mind you. You know, they did nothing to further his relationship with Carol. We still don't know a whole lot about the Kingdom group. This episode helped that. And this episode made people that might have looked at Ezekiel and went, who the hell is this guy, care about Ezekiel. It was a well-done episode, well-directed. It had elements of George Romero, may rest in peace, that I appreciated. Melissa McBride as Carol finally got a chance to shine again. Jerry, Cooper Andrews, who, you know, is a fan favorite, did very well in this episode. They gave him some spotlight. It was a tragic, sad episode, but it was very well put together. The whole non-Rhaenyra storytelling, when they go back and forth to show you flashbacks from a couple days ago, and that worked very well. The only criticism I had of the episode, and I know it happens in the comics, I knew it was coming, was that if you're gonna kill off Shiva, the tiger, okay, and it was devastating, made me sad. It was a big deal. My only issue with this is this: and I know with the budget and CGI it's hard, but I think we needed to learn more about Ezekiel and see the Kingdom people more and see Shiva more, his relationship with Shiva more to this point before we did this. But that's the problem with Walking Dead. They don't use the same characters in every episode. Sometimes you go 4 or 5 episodes without seeing a character, and that cuts into the amount of time you can spend with these characters, and that's a problem. The show is not balanced at all, and characters are in and out, and it takes forever to get back to the stories. We should have seen Ezekiel and Shiva more in the last season and a half than we did. So that when that moment, and that moment was still very hard, but that moment should have been impossible to deal with. And to an extent it was. To an extent it was. But it could have been even more. And if they hadn't done what they did with Ezekiel before that, it probably would have been hard to feel as much as anybody did. Because they've done very little to develop the Kingdom people and Shiva and Ezekiel. As it stands, it was difficult. It was a sad scene. But they could have done so much more with that character, with Ezekiel. But either way, it was the best episode of the season, and I'll give them kudos on that. Very well directed and filmed, and so that's it. That's all I got. And like Mike said, it's a quick turnaround. There's not much you can do in 4 days. You know, not much is on the weekend, and so we'll leave it at that. So there's our TV highlights for this week. Very, very short, abbreviated edition of that. Now, we got sports to get into. That's all the entertainment. We got some sports stuff to get into here. I'm going to start with the thing I did not put in the show description because I just keep forgetting to do it. And I'm going to start with this because I think it's quick to get to, and I always start with the NFL, so why not start with a little college football here. The college football playoff rankings, as I know earlier, came out tonight. There was quite a few surprises. Obviously, there was some major shakeups in terms of wins and losses. Notre Dame got crushed by Miami. Georgia lost. You had that. So there was some shakeups. But one of the cool things about, this whole playoff system is the fact that you can get some major shakeups like this, even outside of this, the wins and losses, even outside the wins and losses having an impact. You can, even in a week where none of the big teams lose or win, and even a big weekend where none of the big teams lose, you could still have a shocking week. And so that's what one of the beauty of the new playoff system is. So tonight, the college football playoff rankings were announced. Obviously, Alabama is at the top. That's no surprise after Georgia lost. But here is the big shock. Clemson moves to number 2. Moving up 2 spots from number 4. Now, that's a shock to people because, they lost to Syracuse. That makes Syracuse look better, I guess. But, they lost to Syracuse. And, I think everybody assumed that Miami was going to shoot to number 2 based off the Notre Dame destruction. They didn't. They shot to number 3, moving up 4 spots. Now, here's the reason why I know this was shocking to some people. Here's the reason why I like this move. Okay? Clemson and Miami are going to have to play each other in the ACC title game if everything stands the way it is. They're going to play this thing out. They're going to, if Miami beats Clemson, Miami gets the spot up. If Clemson beats Miami, Miami's out of it completely, and Clemson takes the spot. As it stands right now. Obviously, if circumstances change or whatever, maybe they both can make it. But as it stands right now, that's the way it would work. So that's going to settle itself on the field. So I don't worry about who's 2 and who's 3 at this point with those 2. Now, you got Oklahoma at 4. It moved up a spot from 5. I completely agree with that, and that wasn't too surprising. Wisconsin moves up 3 spots to 5. Auburn moves up 4 spots to 6. Georgia dropped 6 spots to number 7, which I think was appropriate. Notre Dame drops 5 spots. I think they should have dropped further, to be honest. I know how good they were before this week, but they got embarrassed. And here's where I think things are interesting. And this is where you get a sense of how the committee views a conference, okay? Ohio State moves up 4 spots to 9. Penn State moves up 4 spots to 10. USC is unchanged despite having a good week. And, TCU drops 6 spots to 12. And that's all the significant, that's all the big significant moves. I mean, Oklahoma State is at number 13, moved up 2 spots. Washington at 14, moves up 5. But honestly, after USC, I don't think anybody else is in play at this point, unless there's something miraculous that happens, all right? I think you're looking at 11 teams legitimately still alive for the playoff spots, okay? What I think is interesting here, okay, and probably and this to me is the most interesting development in this whole ranking list here. Ohio State and Penn State both going up 4 spots. And I know people lost in front of them, and I know all that. But the fact they both went up, and look, after what happened to Notre Dame last week, okay, I don't care if Notre Dame wins out the rest of the season, okay? After what happened to Notre Dame last week, Ohio State and Penn State, based on how quickly they move back into the top 10 and how quickly they're surging back up, they're going to pass Notre Dame probably within the next week or 2. They are. You can tell that there is the committee likes the Big Ten. They value the Big Ten. You can tell by where Wisconsin, and that's got to scare Oklahoma. Oklahoma's got to be really upset because I think Oklahoma, even though I feel like it's a fair thing to put them at 4, Oklahoma's got to be saying too, well, wait a minute, why can't we be above Clemson and Miami and let them be the 3 and the 4? Oklahoma could make a claim to that number 2 spot based on their schedule and how everything's panned out. I'd be very worried though if I'm Oklahoma because the fact that they put them at 4 and value Clemson and Miami both, which over Oklahoma means that they value the ACC more. They are looking down the Big 12. That's what's going on here. You can tell how the committee feels about certain conferences. They are looking down in the Big 12. That's why Oklahoma's at 4, not at 2. That's why 2 ACC teams are above them. And if I were Oklahoma, I'd be very worried about Wisconsin because I could see Wisconsin leapfrogging them before they even get to the Big Ten championship game. Because here's the thing. This whole thing with the Big Ten teams is going to play itself out. Either Ohio State or Penn State's going to play Wisconsin. Unless Wisconsin loses before. One of them's going to play each other, and one of them's going to be left out. And you wonder if the other one can maybe play itself in the conversation. So, and here's another aspect of this too. Let's say Wisconsin wins out, and let's say Wisconsin loses in the Big Ten title game, either Ohio State or Penn State wins, they go on. You're probably looking at one of those Big Ten teams guaranteed to make the top 4. Because Auburn and Alabama are going to play each other. One of those teams is going to lose. The only one that I could see making it, even with a loss, late in the season is Alabama. If Auburn loses, they're definitely out because they'll be 8-3. They won't even be in play. You know, but if Alabama loses, they still be alive, obviously. So, you know, Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, that stuff's going to play itself out. Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State, that's going to play itself out. Miami, Clemson, that's going to play itself out. So all this stuff's going to play itself out. But the Linkos that we see on the board right now are, if Alabama loses, they could still be in the conversation. If Auburn loses, they're not. If Georgia loses, they're not. Notre Dame loses, they're not. Ohio State, Penn State loses, they're not. The question is, if Wisconsin loses before they get to the Big Ten title game, are they? If Wisconsin loses a game, because they got a tough schedule, and that's the thing too. If Wisconsin wins out, and they lose in the Big Ten title game, okay, let's say they win out, and except for the Big Ten title game, Wisconsin played a better schedule than a lot of these teams down the stretch. Do you still make a case for Wisconsin being in the top 4? That makes things interesting, adds a different layer to it. Let's say Wisconsin wins out the rest of the way, wins the Big Ten, then Ohio State and Penn State are both out. Wisconsin's guaranteed in. If Oklahoma loses, are they still in the conversation? I don't know. There are Linkos to this. If Miami loses, okay, the ACC title game, and they're 9 and they're only got 1 loss, and Clemson's only got 1. I mean, is a potential you can take both. There's a lot of layers. Could one of these conferences get 2 teams into that top 4? I think it's very unlikely at this point. Right now, I think the way it stands, you're going to get 1 SEC, 1 ACC, 1 Big Ten, and then that last spot probably goes to Oklahoma, unless you know, something miraculous happens and then Notre Dame gets itself back in play. I don't know if USC can get in. I don't know. I think they need a lot of help. I think they'll be in play and they'll make a case late. But I don't know if they'll be able to you know, if it ends up being a case of, let's say Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and USC all win out and there's 1 spot left. I don't know if USC can hold up in a conversation against Oklahoma and Notre Dame. And I don't know if Notre Dame can hold up in a conversation against Oklahoma. So I think Oklahoma would have the inside track on that spot. Notre Dame, I think, lost the inside track in that kind of argument when they got blown out this weekend by Miami. I think they lost that inside track on that spot. They need help. I think Notre Dame should drop further than 8. They got a gift being stuck at 8. Honest to God, they got a gift. Because here's the thing. Georgia and Auburn are going to fall off. Okay? And even if Ohio State and Penn State jump in front of Notre Dame, at least one of them is going to fall off. And then another, and either Wisconsin, the other one's going to fall off. So a lot of these teams are going to fall. If Notre Dame wins out, a lot of these teams are going to fall behind Notre Dame. So, you know, Notre Dame just needs a little bit of help, and they could be back in the conversation. So there's a lot of interesting developments here from these rankings. I think the ACC and the Big Ten right now got to be smiling. Because even though I doubt very much that you're going to get 2 teams from a conference into the top 4, they're set up where it could potentially be possible that it could happen. I think it's very doubtful, but it's possible. I don't see it, but it could happen. I didn't think so. I didn't think there was any chance of it outside, whether it was my opinion or not. I didn't think there was any chance of it a week ago. And now I can see a chance for it to happen. My heart of hearts tells me it won't, but I can see it. So, interesting rankings to say the least. Some of it, again, predictable. Some of it a little shocking. So it should be interesting to see how this week goes. Last week was a topsy-turvy week. A lot of big games on the board last week that, you know, had major playoff implications. And this weekend, not so much. Unless you think Virginia can upset Miami, which I don't see. Wisconsin does get Michigan this week. I said they have a tough schedule. That's a game to watch at noon on Fox. That's a big one to watch. Because Wisconsin, you know, again, they got this schedule that could keep giving them chances to impress and move up a little bit. Outside of that, though, I don't know. I don't think USC should be scared of UCLA. I don't think that game's worse. Outside of that, there's no other games of interest. So that would be the only game of significance in terms of the play rate. So I don't anticipate too much movement this week. Unless Wisconsin loses, then there'll be movement there. But other than that, I think you could see a lot of this be similar next week because there ain't nearly as many potential games that could shake things up on the board like there were last week. So definitely an interesting set of rankings, and we'll see how they turn out next week. But this week, very interesting set of rankings for college football. It should be an interesting finish to the season, that's for sure. So from college, we go to the pros. And, you know, I don't want to keep going on about the same thing, so I won't. It's obvious, again, we said this last week, that things are, you know, what you see this season is what you get. A lot of bad play, a lot of mediocre teams. You know, we talked about ratings down and people upset going away from the game. The games aren't compelling. There's not enough compelling storylines. A lot of stars are hurt. A lot of controversy, all that kind of stuff. We talked about this, so I'm not going to belabor the points. It just doesn't get any better. And you know, it hasn't gotten any better. It's not going to get better. And I guess one of the things, you know, we talked about it, you know, the NFL was clinging to parity early in the season. Like, oh, you know, this is all parity. There's so many good teams. It's not parity. It's just a lot of mediocrity. There's a lot of mediocrity. You know, you look at these games this weekend, and you know, for all the talk of parity, and this is why it was BS that it was parity, look at who's at the top. Again, in the AFC, it's the Patriots and it's the Steelers. And you got the Chiefs, you know. And then you look in the NFC, the Eagles are at the top, which is, you know, a little bit of a surprise. But the Saints are up there, and we've seen them up there before. Carolina's in the game. The Packers look like they might be stabilizing a little bit. The Vikings, who have been off and on the last couple of years here. The Cowboys, I guess, are still in. The Falcons had a nice little stabilizing win this week, but, you know, they're still in play. You know, it's the Panthers are at the top. You know, a lot of these are the usual suspects. So there's a little bit of familiarity at the top of these playoff races. And, you know, for all the talk a couple of weeks ago, me saying, well, a lot of these teams are still kind of bunched up, and they were very bunched up at the beginning, but we have some distance now. Now, here's the funny part. I always mention I like the tier system, right? Elite level teams, and then teams that are at the top, but they're not quite elite. They're not elite is teams you think can win a Super Bowl. And then you got your top tier teams. They make, you know, their playoff team, win division, but you don't know if you can buy them as a Super Bowl winner. And then you got the teams that are in the mix, and you got the teams on the outside looking in, and you got the bad teams, right? That's how I've always viewed things. A couple weeks ago, very hard to tell a lot of things. Now, it's still hard to tell, but I think we could at least we can throw a few teams into the top tier pile. I think the only team now, in my mind, now that I think is very close, and they didn't play this week, they had a bye. To me, there's only one team in the National Football League that is on the fringe. Now, Kansas City was at the beginning, but they've fallen off. They've done their usual midseason kind of fall off the cliff. If they can win, if they can have a good end of the season, they can join this team. But this team right now is right there. If they have another good week or two, I think you could put them on that elite level tier. That team's the Eagles. Nobody's been more consistent. Nobody's played better on both sides of the football. To me, they're the best team in the NFL right now. And to me, if they're 1 or 2 good weeks away from putting themselves as the only team on that elite tier as being a potential Super Bowl winner. The Chiefs are very close to that. They have to show us that they can be the Kansas City Chiefs from the beginning of the season. If they do that, then I put them up there too. Then you got that top tier, which is the Patriots and the Steelers. Both which can win the Super Bowl, but based on performance, the Patriot defense and The Steeler defense, right now, you need to see some things from before you put them on that elite level. I need to see better defense from them. Offensively, they both got it in spades, but you need to see better. You know they got the pedigree to get there. I just don't. Again, it's an examination thing. Okay, we all know they could get there, and we all know they can win it. But in terms of just viewing their performances right now, they're not on that level right now. They got to get better on the defensive side of the ball, both teams. If they do that, then I think they will join them, and that will be your 4 elite level teams. I think Carolina and New Orleans are both top tier teams as well at this point. I think you've seen that. We know in the past they've been. The Saints defense has gotten better. The offense is still there. The Panther defense we know is good. The offense has gotten better. So they're right up there as well. Now, those are the top tier teams I view. The teams in the mix, I know it's going to sound crazy. The Vikings, they're 7-2. One would think, well, they're more than in the mix. They should be a top-tier team. They have a defense. Offensively, we never know what you're going to get week to week. So right now, I put them as simply in the mix. I think Dallas is very much in the mix. I think Green Bay and Detroit are very much in the mix. If Green Bay can simply stay alive long enough for Aaron Rodgers to come back, then I think they're more than in the mix. They become a top-tier team again. I think the Titans are very much in the mix. I like what I've seen from them on both sides of the ball. I think they've gotten better. The Jaguars, I think, are in the mix. You have to like what they've done offensively. They've improved a lot. We know the defense is there, but offensively, they've improved a lot. If they can if they can continue to be consistent, and which they've been lately, then I think that the Jags will be very much in play. And then there's the Rams, who I think are very much in play at 7-2. Offensively, they've done very well. I need to see more out of their defense, but yeah, I mean, you have to like what you see from them, at least offensively here. They haven't shown signs of going under yet. And I think you have to consider the Falcons at least in the mix here because they're the Falcons. We know what they can do. And they're 5-4, and they can very well stay in play here. And the Cowboys I mentioned too, even though at 5-4, they can still very much stay in play here. Outside of that, I think that everybody else is on the outside looking in. I think the Bills are on the outside looking in now. I don't like their body language. I don't like the way they've been playing. Their defense, which is their strength, has gotten horrid. Now they can't score. It's typical Buffalo again. We start off strong and fall completely off the map. I think Buffalo's on the outside looking in. I think Arizona's on the outside looking in. I think the Jets are on the outside looking in. I think the Colts as well, the Buccaneers, who are supposed to be a sweep. I think the Redskins are as well. And I think the Chargers are, and the Texans are. Oh, I forgot to mention the Seahawks. I put the Seahawks in the mix as well because while their defense looks like it's very on point, offensively it's still rather inconsistent. And we'll see what happens with the Seahawks with the whole concussion scandal thing. Who knows what's going on there? Seems like they violated protocol. We'll see if that ends up being a detriment to them here. And obviously they've lost Richard Sherman for the year. That's going to hurt them. So we'll see how that impacts them going forward. That's going to hold them back quite a lot, I think. But they should still win that division. So not win that division, but they should still be very much in play as a playoff team. So, but I think clearly at this point, and those are the teams I think are on the out. Seahawks are in the mix, but the rest of the teams I mentioned prior to them were teams on the outside looking in. I think the Bears are completely done. They're off. The Browns are done. We know that. The Bengals are done. And I think if that don't get, I like Marvin Lewis, but that don't get Marvin Lewis fired, I don't know what will. I think the Giants are clearly done. The 49ers are clear. And by the way, Giants lose on the heels of that, the horrible performance against the Rams. For them to lose to the 49ers, how the heck Ben McAdoo still has a job, I don't even know. I really don't. That's horrible. That's an embarrassment with the way the Giants have played. I think the Broncos are done. They can't score. Now their defense is giving it up. And then I think the Dolphins are done as well. I know people are going to say, well, what is on the outside looking in? What's the difference between outside looking in versus being done? Outside looking in is you look at the record. There's still a chance you maybe could put together a run and be in the mix. Completely done is this completely thinking you're not going to have a chance to win, to get back in play here. That's what the difference is. I didn't mention the Raiders and the Ravens. The Ravens I put on the outside looking in because I just don't see it. The Raiders I put in the mix because I think they still have enough to maybe put together a run and get back into play. And both those teams had bye weeks. So that's where we're at. So, I mean, yes, there is some distance as you view these teams. Yes, you can look at this and go, oh, hey, we now kind of have an idea of the way this playoff picture is unfolding. But it's still not what it's been in the past where, you kind of have an idea of who the elite teams are, who the top teams are. But I think it's getting easier to identify or distinguish some of these teams. So, yeah. So, I mean, after we, that's where you stand here with the league here as we approach the end of the third portion of the season. Hard to believe. And thankfully it's been a quick season. Too bad it's been a miserable one. So as we look at our picks for this week, look to see how I did for week 10. I had the Bills over the Saints. I clearly lost out on that one. Don't ask me to pick the Bills again because they're terrible. Cowboys over Falcons. That was a loss. Falcons stepped up. I had Patriots over Broncos. That was a win for me. Rams over Texans. That's a win for me. I had Redskins over Vikings. That was a loss. Seahawks over Cardinals. That was a win. So I went 1, 2, 3, and 3. So, I've had a couple good weeks. I was bound to have a down one. Hey, at least it was 500. So 3 and 3 for week 10. I'll take it. So now we go to week 11. So that's how I did on the picks for last week. Let's look ahead to this week, week 11. As again, we approach the end of this third portion of the season. I think probably this might be the NFL has had a terrible time scheduling games this year. I mean, some of these matches have been terrible. There are a little bit in the way of better games this weekend. There are some more interesting games this weekend coming up here that I think, will have some high stakes to them and be on a good level in terms of just not only being good games, but having some impact, I'm going to start with the Monday night game because I think that game's going to be significant. That Monday night game, 8:30 p.m. Eastern game on ESPN from Seattle, the 5-4 Falcons at the 6-3 Seahawks. That's a big game for Atlanta. Coming off the big win against the Cowboys, to knock off Seattle would definitely put them back in play, give them a nice little confidence boost. Seattle without Richard Sherman, we'll see how they come back, how tough they are. They are at home. They're very tough to play. If Atlanta plays up to their capability, which has been kind of hard to do for them this season, I think Atlanta's got a good chance to win this game. In fact, I'm going to pick the Falcons to win this game over the Seahawks. I think it's going to be a very close game, and I like Atlanta to win it. I know that they got Freeman's out and everything, injured and everything, but I think they'll get it together. I like the Falcons over the Seahawks in that game. Even on the road, I think they'll pull it off. In fact, they played better on the road this year, which has been odd. The Sunday night game, which I think is going to be the game of the weekend, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC from Arlington, Texas. The 8-1 Eagles take on the 5-4 Cowboys. It's unfortunate that Elliott's not playing because that makes this a better game. But I still think it's a good game on its own. I think it'll be a close game. But I like the Eagles. I think they're the best team in football. I think Dallas will keep it close. I think their defense has really shown up a lot for them this year, and I think it'll show up again. But I think the Eagles just have too much talent. I think they're too good. I like the Eagles over the Cowboys. 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on CBS. The Patriots at the Raiders. Neutral field game, obviously. Mexico. I think this game is in Mexico, I think. I'm not sure. But Raiders need this game. This is a must-win. They lose this game, I think you take them out in the mix category and write them off completely because 4-6 ain't going to get it done. He's going to week 12. So must-win for the Raiders. Patriots continue to kind of churn things. Despite their defense being poor this year, they continue to just win games. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Because with the Raiders defense and the Patriots offense being so poor, I think this will be a close game. A part of me wants to pick the Raiders. You know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think the game will be close. But I can't bring myself. I was gonna go out on a limb and pick the Raiders, but I can't go. I can't do it. I can't do it. So I'll go with the Patriots here. I'll be safe with the pick. I just can't bring myself to do it. But anyway, I think it'll be a good game though. Let's see here. What else is on the board worth mentioning? Oh, 1 o'clock Eastern game on Fox from Minneapolis. 7-2 Rams at the 7-2 Vikings. The Rams are 4-0 on the road. The Vikings are 4-1 at home. We'll see what wins out. Vikings been all about their defense. Rams been all about their offense. To me, defense is often important. But the Rams have a lot of explosive, dynamic offensive players. But to me, defense is very important, and I think you'll win out here. And I think the Rams are due for a loss. They've done. I mean, I can't believe they've done as well. I thought they'd fall off the cliff like they last year, but they didn't. So, but anyway, Vikings over Rams for me. I think defense will win out in that one. 1 o'clock Eastern game on Fox from New Orleans. You got the 4-5 Redskins at the 7-2 Saints. This is the last gasp for the Redskins here. This is their season. They have to win this game to keep themselves in the mix. New Orleans' offense has been on fire. Their defense has been much improved. They're at home where they usually dominate. I think the Redskins have enough, despite being banged up, to be able to keep themselves in this game and make it interesting. But I think the Saints pull out the win here because of their offense. So I like the Saints over the Redskins. And one more game to pick. I could pick the Ravens and the Packers, but somehow I think that game's going to end up being an ugly one-sided affair. I'm going to pick an interesting game, and this to me is a dark horse game. And you know, this one could surprise some people. 8:25 p.m. Eastern this Thursday night. This week's Thursday night football game. 6-3 Titans at the 7-2 Steelers. The Steelers are 2-1 at home. The Titans 2-2 on the road. The Titans have playing good football. They're finally looking like that team that we said could break the glass ceiling the last couple of years. Offensively and defensively, they've been very, very solid. The Steelers, we know on offense, have been a machine. Defensively, sometimes they check out. It's just the way it is. If their defense checks out, I think the Titans can win this game convincingly. If it doesn't, I think you get a close game. I'm going to go with an upset here. I have to pick an upset. And I know some people are going to say, well, Falcons over Seahawks is an upset. Not a big one. I'm going to pick the Titans over the Steelers this week. That's going to be my kind of big upset pick. So Titans over Steelers for me in a very, very close game. All right, so my 6 picks for this week. Falcons over Seahawks, Eagles over Cowboys, Patriots over Raiders, Vikings over Rams, Saints over Redskins, Titans over Steelers. Those are my picks for week 11 of the NFL season. We'll look back at those picks and look back at the games and look ahead to week 12. Next week, week 12, of course, Thanksgiving week. And we'll, of course, do a supersized version of the NFL picks because of that. Which will include picking all 3 of the Thanksgiving Day games. So we'll do all that next week. And it should be a good slate of games, hopefully. If it all plays out to capability, it should be a good slate of games. So we'll see how that goes next week. Before I get to college basketball, and we'll bring Mike in and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people have been asking, well, you guys haven't talked NBA, you know, and here's the thing, folks, okay? If there's a big story in the NBA, we'll talk about it. Right now, we're playing all these early – I talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago. It's the early season. I know there's been some surprises. The Celtics are doing well despite everything. The Knicks are doing better than expected. The Cavs are looking a little bit down. Look, it's November, okay? And it's kind of like the baseball season where if there's something of something big to talk about, we will talk about it. Something big happens, a trade, an injury or something, we'll talk about it. But right now, nothing of what's gone on is something that we have to force into the show and take some time out right now. First of all, nobody's really, other than a few people, nobody's really mentioned it to me. The only reason why I might have mentioned this tonight, because the few people that have been mentioned to me, well, why don't you talk about the NBA? I've been doing that every week. And I appreciate that. You know, I get that I want to talk NBA, and there's some good things going on in the NBA, but we only have so much time, and I try to fit into the important things and the things that are the more hot topic issues that people constantly email us about or the things that are constantly being discussed. I try to pick the things that are notable, that are all over, sports radio and sports shows. And I try to pick the things that you all want to talk about too. And when I combine those two factors, the NBA is not something that's on the top of everybody's list right now, collectively. Okay? I know there's some people out there that want us to talk about it, but, there's not enough of you to push that in the favor of that. So we try, again, we go what the majority wants because we only have so much time. So, I mean, like I said, there's some good things going on. I said this last week. The NBA, in my mind, really starts to take off on Christmas Day when they get the spotlight to themselves on Christmas Day. And then it starts to build a little bit. You get the All-Star game, and then it really builds as you go to the playoffs. That's the way I view it. Okay? I know these games matter, just like they matter in baseball early in the season. I know the season's long, but these games all matter. I'm not saying they don't. What I'm saying is we're not forced to discuss it at this point unless something big goes down because, again, it is early and there's other big things to talk about. And I know people would say, well, college basketball is early. College basketball is a shorter season. They have less games. That's why. Okay, NBA has a lot of games, and even though they all matter, there's more time to talk about it as we go along. So I just wanted to note that because, again, there are some people that have been regularly asking me about the NBA. And, again, I feel bad. I know you all want me to talk about it. Those few people want me to talk about it. Just like there's a few people that want me to talk about hockey. But we have to go with the majority. We can't please everybody. We do the best we can. We only have so much time. So, all right. So now that I said that, college basketball. Not, obviously the season on the way, we did our preview last week. Not a whole lot of big headlines so far until tonight. Nothing, I would say, earth-shattering has transpired since the season began last week. Nothing huge. As you look back at, the season started really on Friday, Veterans Day. You had the usual pomp and circumstance, Veterans Day, the special games and all that. And, but nothing of significance, I don't think. I mean, you had A&M beat West Virginia badly, 88-65. And everybody thought A&M was going to be a good team this year. So that wasn't too much of an upset. And again, early season, some of these teams might be a little overranked and that kind of thing. So that wasn't too shocking. Let's see. Is there anything else on my notes? Wasn't anything from Saturday. Wasn't anything from Sunday. I mean, Kentucky almost got beat by Vermont. Kentucky has only won their first two games by an average of 6.5 points. That's a little dangerous. As they went into tonight's game against Kansas. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's see. Anything else of note? Big one over Minnesota had the big one over Providence, but that Providence wasn't ranked. Yeah, that really wasn't any big notable. Really wasn't any big notable headline. No big shocking upsets by a D2 team or anything like that. So really, the big headlines for college basketball came tonight as the action centered on the Champions Class, the traditional Champions Class this year at the United Center. The first game was between Duke and Michigan State, number 1 versus number 2. Duke took a hit early as number 1 recruit Marvin Baz. Wow, I just completely botched the name. I apologize. I shouldn't because I've been watching this kid play. Marvin Bagley III, sorry. There we go. Got poked in the eye by a teammate and never returned to the game. So that hurt Duke early. But Grayson Allen took over with a fantastic performance. And he's done very well so far. Scored 37 points, his career high tonight. Trevor Duvall had 17 points and 10 assists. Grayson Allen's been great so far. He looks healthy. He had a good interview where he said he's a senior now. He's a captain. He's got to set a better example. So he's saying all the right things. Seems to be carrying himself well. Hopefully that sticks. He had a great game. He stepped up because he knew that they were losing Bagley tonight. We'll see what happens with him with the eye. Hopefully he's able to play. But Duke showed a lot, and Duke has a lot of talent. They got the best recruiting class. They have a lot of talent. And I think the one thing that I like from Duke early is, and they played in the zone a lot tonight because they try to stay at a foul trouble. The referees were terrible in this game. Game of this magnitude, they weren't letting anybody get positioning and play defense. But that's why Duke had to play a zone for most of the game. But I think the one thing I like from Duke is that in this game, they were very multi-dimensional on offense. They were cutting to the basket. They're using the paint. They got guys that can score in the paint, so that helps. And Michigan State's going to be a very good defensive team. I think they had like 11 blocks in this game. They are a very good defense. They have a lot of bigs, and they're very deep in with bigs. They have a lot of big bodies. And the fact that Duke could do as well as they did against that kind of defensive team with that kind of height, because they obviously had a size disadvantage, that's a very good sign for Duke because they're only going to get better. That's a very, very good sign for Duke. And I was very impressed with Michigan State. Now, I was high on Michigan State last week when we did the preview. I was very impressed with Michigan State. I like the way their defense played. Again, they're very deep with bigs. Now, I was impressed with their defense, okay? But they got to get a little bit more consistent in rebounding. I know that I'm going to say that the referees kind of hurt them there with the fouls, both teams, I think. But nonetheless, they got to be a little bit stronger with the ball. They got to be a little more consistent with rebounding, and they have to stop turning over the ball. They had over 15 turnovers, Michigan State. If they could be strong with the ball and get better at rebounding, particularly on offensive rebounding, Michigan State, to me, is going to be a very tough team to beat. Miles Bridges, they got a very good team. Very, very good team. So I was impressed with both teams in different ways in the first game. And so far in the second game, very, very close game between Kansas and Kentucky. Kansas leading 34-33. Number 4 versus number 7. Kansas number 4, Kentucky number 7. Duke again beat Michigan State 88-81. Michigan State suffered their first loss. They're 1-1. Duke now 3-0. And again, number 4 Kansas at number 7 Kentucky right now, 34-33. This game on ESPN. So far in this game, LaGarde Vic has been solid. Kevin Knox been solid for Kentucky, keeping them in. Kentucky in another close game again. Their first 2 wins only by an average of 6.5 points. They have played okay, but they haven't played very. I mean, do you read it as them playing down to their competition? Are they one of those teams? Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see how they play out the rest of their non-conference string. If they keep playing teams that they're clearly superior to close, then we'll know that they're a team that plays down the country because they're playing right up there with Kansas. They're only down by 1. But as Mike will tell you, and I'm going to throw to Mike right now, Mike will tell you Kansas is one of those teams that kind of sleepwalks through the first half and wakes up in the second.
Yeah, Kansas is really rough in the first part of the season, but once they start clicking in the second half, like in the Big 12, then Kansas really becomes that team we're scared of. Is that what I was supposed to say? I was going to tell them.
Yeah, you did very well there.
I was like, oh, Mike's going to say, because let's be honest here. I thought you were still talking football. Watching the SmackDown main event, which was New Day versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I'm just going to spoil this right now. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn did not eat a pin.
Well, didn't I tell you that was going to happen?
They didn't lose. Well, no, you thought, and I kind of agree with you, begrudgingly, that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, for their behavior last week, we're probably going to eat the pin and we're going to lose for a little bit. Just as like no, Kevin Owens did not get pinned, and neither did Sami Zayn. But by God, and I'm going to confirm this theory right now. Other wrestling show, if some combination of Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Asuka, and Nia Jax were under that initial siege, it wouldn't have worked. Wouldn't have worked. You're going to see some extra wrestling now, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen one game this year, one game, and it wasn't much of a game. And let's be and missing now from this Raw siege was, of course, you can't get Brock Lesnar to work 2 nights in a row. It's not a pay-per-view or Raw. Why would Brock do that? So, here, Asuka, the shit out of Charlotte, who, by the way, I called off the air, and we'll talk more about that on Thursday, I imagine. But Asuka beat the shit out of Charlotte during the Raw women kind of doing their little part, and they put the women's locker room under siege. And then Alexa Bliss just fucking blasts Charlotte and knocks her out, and the rest of the SmackDown women got destroyed. What, Brian? I'm sorry, I forgot Samoa Joe in the prior comment, but hey, Brian, guess what?
What?
The Full Shield.
Yeah, I know.
Joe and Braun Strowman showed up in SmackDown. They didn't stand a chance. And it was miraculous. Fantastic sight to behold. I saw that when you were talking football, I watched that clip twice. By the way, where were Kevin and Zayn? Right out of the ring and walked away while Sami Zayn was. It was such a heel moment. Speaking of heels, Kentucky is only down by a little bit, and this is not even a really good. And Bill Self is a great coach. Bill Self is a fantastic coach. Unlike Shane McMahon, who got his ass handed to him and humiliated on the show, Bill Self is a great motivator of coaches. Is a great motivating coach, and might kind of hold off here, but be going down to the wire, and I'm going to say this because game, nor am I following yet. By the way, Brian.
Yes.
Who won?
Huh?
Duke, Michigan State. Who won?
Duke.
Oh. Duke won, you said.
Yes.
What was the final score?
88-81.
81, huh? Guess what?
What?
To see a rematch in like the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or even the Final Four of the championship game. Hopes up.
They're a good team, Mike.
Oh, no. Brian, don't get me wrong. Michigan State is a very good team. Michigan State has one of the greatest coaches in college basketball today. But when it comes to the postseason, Michigan State chokes like they just ate 20 chicken nuggets at once and swallowed without chewing.
Oh, God. Wow.
It's both bad and accurate at the same time.
By
the way,
yeah.
Talk.
No, go ahead.
And speaking of teams who choke when it matters, we watched Missouri last night. Put on a good show against Wagner.
Wow.
Missouri dominated Wagner, and that could be a good win for Missouri later on. Be a good win for Missouri. Would I pick Missouri to go far? No.
I wouldn't either. No, let me just say this. I brought you in when we were talking about Kansas and how, they're always you don't want to see Kansas when it gets to March. Even though they've had some early season exits themselves, but theirs are a little bit more rare than Michigan State's. Early postseason exits, I should say. They're a little bit more rare than Michigan State's. But Kansas is always a second half team. You know this. I know this. They sweepwalk through the first half. No matter what kind of team Kansas has, okay? No matter what kind of team Kansas, poor Bill Self has to pull his hair out every game in the first half. I don't know what happens to Kansas in the first half of games, but it's the second half where they really start to kind of come into their own in each and every game they play. Now they're in a close one right now. Kentucky is keeping themselves in it. So this to me right now, I'm going to say this right now. If Kentucky can stay in this game, even if they lose this game, that's an impressive performance by Kentucky, because in the previous 2 games, they really should have blown both teams out, and they didn't. So to be in this game, because I think Kansas is right up there, is probably the number 2 team in the country right now. I would rank them right now based on what I've seen. Duke, Kansas, Villanova right now.
Yep.
As it stands right now. That could change, but that's how I see it. But I'm telling you right now, the way Kentucky's playing in this game right now, from what I'm seeing and what I'm reading in that, Kentucky might make a better case to be in the top 5 than Michigan State right now. Right now. But we'll let that play itself out. But they're playing really, really well right now. And I always like, Mike, you'll get a kick out of this. I always like John Calipari before a game when they ask about what he sees from the other team, and he always makes every game sound so daunting. It could be playing a D2 team, and he's like, "Well, they shoot the ball well, they play well. We gotta play better than we've ever played, because I just don't like the way we've been playing." And God, everything is always, he makes every team sound like they're the number 1 team in the country, and his team has absolutely no chance.
Yeah, this is actually true.
He really does.
Legitimately true, yes. He does this. And it's so great. And by the way, Syracuse beat Iona 71-62, and if Iona holds up their end of the bargain, this could be the first quality win of Syracuse's season.
I actually think it will be. I like Iona. So I
think
that
being said, suck it, Lenardi. It's never too early to say that.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go
ahead. Talk about Calipari, but go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, but you're right. Calipari builds up it could be a D3 school, and Calipari will build them up to like a team of biblical levels. It's like we both know this team is not scoring more than 30 points on you all game. And Cal's like, but no, they're 3-point extremely dangerous. And you know what? They've got a bunch of great defenders on that team. A lot of trouble, so we really got to bring it tonight. It's like, Cal, we both know that your freshmen are going to score 95 points on this team in the first half, but might easily distracted by their great defense. It's like Calipari, everybody.
He's
funny. Calipari. I have a new respect for John Calipari as a coach and entertainer. Maybe not as a guy who, maybe not as anything else, but
listen.
In terms of, there is no better. I feel like there's no better coach in college for freshmen and sophomores than John Calipari, and there's every better coach for juniors and seniors. There's you could literally find better coaches everywhere else for juniors and seniors than John Calipari.
and before his reaction to seeing a junior or senior on his team is what are you doing here?
This isn't right.
Why are you here?
Didn't you go to the draft last year?
Oh goodness! Was there an oversight?
Sweet Duke kid. Calipari is a very good coach overall, but when he sees a senior, he's like, this is new. Did something go horribly wrong? Do I actually have to be at Calipari? Do I actually have to be at graduation this year? I'm in Tahiti at that point. You mean I have to be in Lexington in August?
Oh gosh,
John Calipari, everybody!
Wow, and just for the folks, just for the folks that, I haven't seen. It's not like after the game, after his team completes their Herculean task of beating that D2 team. Okay?
D3.
It's not D3 team. It's not like he goes up there and acts like it was this majestic journey. He goes up there and says, well, we could have played better.
He's like, our guys played really well, but we could have played much better. I mean, honestly, though, that D3 team that they play in October, November is better than 95% of the SEC that they play in January through March. So maybe Cal's right. There's more competition there.
It's important to get
true.
You gotta play those D3. You gotta play those D3 schools. Get some quality wins. Get them prepared for the tournament.
Yeah, I know, because at least those D3 and D2 teams are going to make their tournaments, unlike most of the SEC. And unlike most of the SEC, those D3 and D2 teams would actually have earned a spot in their tournament. So, fuck off.
We're terrible. We're going to get Mal. Oh, you're hating on the SEC again. Oh, well.
Like, you're hating on the SEC again. Have you not listened to this show for the last,
I'm just going to be honest. Forget about our show. Have you not watched the SEC the last 3 years? Jesus.
3 years?
Well, last, 7 years maybe. Look, if it's not Kentucky, it's Florida. It's one or the other. The only two teams, once in a while, Vanderbilt throws itself into the ring. Other than that, there really isn't anybody else. Let's be honest. But I think this year Florida's better than Kentucky, just to be honest. But we'll see if that manifests itself. But right now, Kentucky's doing a very good job.
They actually had the lead last time I looked on Kansas. But again, this is
40-39 right now, Kentucky.
This is early season Kansas, so watch out.
Yeah,
and by the way, this early season Kansas team, also Eon's better than 95% of the SEC. So this is Kentucky's biggest test for now. The year.
Yeah. Usually their biggest tests are this game, and then they play Louisville a lot around January 1st. So.
And a lot of the analysts and the writers are still high on Louisville, despite the fact that does Louisville even have a coach right now?
David Padgett, yep.
They brought back David Padgett.
David Padgett's the interim head coach, yep.
No. So I guess Rick Pitino's appeal didn't go so hot, huh?
Nope. Not at all.
Did they just show him the receipts from Adidas and they're like, this is not going to go well for you, Rick? But no, go ahead. Why should you still be the coach?
Anyway, so good game. Oh, Kansas just took back the lead. So good game going on at ESPN right now. Nice back and forth. Been a very good night of basketball. This is a really good event. I really like this event. I'm glad that they do this. I like it. It's a good way to kind of ease everybody into the college basketball season. It's always a great event. You usually get good games. Good game right now. 42-40 Kansas. This game on ESPN again. And right now it's been an even. Both teams playing well both ways. And I think the refs are doing a better job in this game than they did in the Duke Michigan State game. The referees are kind of letting them play a little bit, which is good. So,
Ryan,
go ahead.
You're saying the referees didn't do a great job in Duke Michigan State? That's what you said. Duke Michigan State not great ref officiating.
Yeah.
So
go figure, right?
Yeah. So Krzyzewski started early this year, huh?
Well, I don't.
I understand. I guess Tom Izzo might be a little upset after that game.
Let me be honest.
Wink.
Wait, let me be honest with you, okay? Because I know what you're getting at. Here's the thing. Both teams had terrible calls. They all had. I don't know how many guys in this game had 4 fouls. The referees were terrible. You could not get in. Nobody could get in legal guarding position without having a foul called on them. So
imagine Michigan State really suffered from that. Wink, wink, wink.
Yeah. Well, they.
Wink, wink.
As far as what's coming up, God, the rest of the week. As far as big games go, I'm trying to look at the schedule here to see it because holiday tournaments will start later in the week and play into next week. And obviously, those are always big spotlight kind of games to watch here. I'm trying to just look at the schedule. There's a lot of college basketball this week, even going into the weekend, which is always good. A lot of ways to spotlight a lot of these bracket buster games, teams, and all that. Let's see. I don't think there's any after tonight. I don't think there's any really big games till probably Monday. A&M Oklahoma State, not bad. UCLA Creighton, that's not bad. Oakland at Syracuse is actually interesting. Oakland's been a bracket buster team. That might be interesting. That one might be interesting. I'd keep an eye on that one. That's a good one. Xavier at Hampton. That one's not any good. Nothing on Tuesday. I'm sure Mike would be interested in Longwood at UNC Greensboro on Tuesday.
Longwood had a rough game today. Fell to Columbia. Longwood didn't play hard.
No, didn't come out.
Columbia just had a beat. They didn't. I'm ready to play.
No,
and it's tough. I guess Columbia had to beat Longwood with both hands. They got the job done. They certainly finished on time. Longwood off their porch. And the Longwood, unfortunately for Longwood, their lance did not penetrate Columbia today. But it's a long season. You could say this was just the beginning. This was just foreplay to what could be a long penetration of the season. Good old Longwood Lancers.
Okay, all right. Oh God, there's never enough innuendos in regards to Longwood. On the show, it's a tradition, unlike any other, I suppose. Here's a game that Mike might be interested in for less crude reasons. Western Kentucky, Villanova. Villanova's going down to the Bahamas next week to play.
Atlantis, huh?
That's a good tournament.
It has turned into quite the tournament, yeah. So Villanova in the Bahamas. I'm looking forward to that one.
You know who's in that? Who's not? Yep. You got Western Kentucky, Villanova. Arizona and NC State are also in that tournament.
Very interesting. Nova previously won this tournament a few years ago, so I'd love to see them repeat. Good game, though, if Nova can make it that far.
If you got Villanova, Arizona somewhere in there, that's going to be tremendous. That would be a tremendous game to have. I'm just trying to pick out if there's any other games worth checking out. Connecticut, Oregon on Thanksgiving. Not bad one to watch in prime time. Gonzaga, Ohio State. Oh, God, that's going to be a rough one to watch. Don't watch that on Thanksgiving, please. No, don't watch that one. I've seen them both. Nope. That's going to be an ugly one. It should be in the 50s. Maybe low 60s if you're lucky. Oakland's playing Kansas, too. Oakland's playing quite the schedule. Let's see. Just try it. Yeah, so over the next week, that's pretty much it. And that's and again, some of those games are on Wednesday, so that even exceeds into the end of the following week. So, yeah, so it's not a lot of big games over the next week. So this is pretty much it tonight. And then you got the holiday tournaments that start next week, and there'll be some good games in there. So, I would say right now, based off tonight, Duke had a good night. You obviously worry about Bagley. Hopefully he's okay. But I think Duke had a very good night. Grayson Allen had a good night, and he's had a good run here. Michigan State, I saw some signs I liked. I'm going to say right now, win or lose here, Kentucky's down by 2 of under 12. I think Kentucky has to be happy as long as they don't, go into like a hole the rest of the way here. Kentucky's got to be happy with their performance tonight. They're playing really well in this game, really well. Win or lose, I think Kentucky made itself known tonight, I think. So, and I don't usually say that about Kentucky, but I'm impressed with the way they're playing this game. They're playing really good defense on Kansas. I can see it out of the corner. I've been kind of watching, looking down, looking up. They're playing strong defense on Kansas, and Kansas is a good team. They're right in there. So you gotta be impressed with Kentucky tonight. I think Kentucky and Duke. Because Kansas, I was already impressed with. I think they made some strides tonight and really made some statements tonight. I think. So that's what I take away from tonight. So as far as these big games go tonight. So yeah, I think we got through everything. That is everything. That's everything on my list. Woohoo! All right. So again, Champions Classic Game 2 going on right now. 45-43 Kansas over Kentucky with under 12 left, and this game on ESPN. So if you're interested, check it out. As college basketball season really underway now here. It's a good spotlight night for them. So check out this game if you're interested. Check out that game if you're interested, I should say. So, all right, we got through everything. That's it for tonight. The show might be over. Does not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show, the scheduling of the show, topic ideas, or breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, wrestling that you want us to cover. What else? Questions about the show and the scheduling of the show. Any reactions, opinions, or comments on things we talked about on the show. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it or once you find it. Again, follow us on social media. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about the show, especially when it comes to scheduling. That's where we post all of our scheduling updates, any postponements, delays. We also post random thoughts on our social media as well. So if you want to have access to all that and more, search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and make sure that you like our fan page and follow us. And then, of course, search for at IT Spotlight 411 on Twitter, and then you can follow us on Twitter, and then make sure you use hashtag IT Spotlight 411 anytime you tweet to us or tweet regarding our show, and that will help us out, and it'll be, you'll have access to us on social media, and it'll be all updated and all that good stuff. 2 ways in which to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on both of those sites, and when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. You can stream any of our episodes since we moved to Google Plus and YouTube. That's all of our episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's episode. They're all available for you to stream anytime you want. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Google Plus and YouTube. If streaming's not your thing, maybe you prefer to listen to us rather than see us, or listen to us on the go, or you're interested in older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search In the Spotlight 411 on both those sites. And when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both those sites, where you'll find every episode we've ever produced in this over 7 years we've been doing the show. So all of our original Blog Talk Radio episodes from October 2010 to January 2011, all of our Talk Show episodes from January 2011 all the way up to mid-October 2015, and all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode, all transferred into audio format for your convenience. All the episodes available for you to listen to anytime you want. They're all in audio format for you, in order from the most recent episode, which is tonight, all the way up to the oldest, way up in October 2010. Way up to October 2010. All this stuff is available for you to listen to anytime you want, whether you're a longtime fan or a new fan who wants to check an episode from 4 or 5 years ago, or a fan who wants to just keep up a current episode, maybe miss an episode here or there, or want to check out an episode again. Any of that applies to you. Check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search for In the Spotlight 411. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, and Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on all those sites. You can just search for In the Spotlight 411 on all those sites. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
Time for bed.
I want to thank myself for another great show, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and your contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. So to be watching and listening to us later on in archive, thank you to you as well. That is it for tonight. Again, no show on Thursday. We're doing a show tomorrow night. Wrestling show. previewing Survivor Series this coming Sunday. So if you have questions or comments you want to submit before the show, you can do that by email, Facebook, or Twitter, or you can also do it during the show tomorrow night as well. We'll go over all the matches, make predictions. And with any time we have left, we'll do some questions or comments. Again, there's a lot of changes to the card, including changes that happened tonight. We'll discuss all those. We'll go over all the matches, make predictions, have some fun with that. And that's all we're going to do tomorrow. So it won't be a long show, but we'll be doing it nonetheless. So an all-wrestling show, we'll be previewing Survivor Series, which will be coming up this Sunday on the WWE Network. So that will be our next show tomorrow. And again, next week, we'll only have one show, and that will be on Tuesday, which is November the 21st. Sports Entertainment Combo. We'll do TV highlights, box office beat, all the good sports stuff. We'll do it all. Survivor Series fall, all that on Tuesday, and then we'll be off the rest of the week because of Thanksgiving, and then back to a normal schedule the week after that. So that's what's going on. So again, no show on Thursday, but show tomorrow night, and then one show next week on Tuesday. So with that being said, that is it for tonight. I hope you all have a great rest of your night and a great Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow night, 9 o'clock from Eastern Time, broadcasting to you live on YouTube. Until then, have a good night, everybody.